I will be recording this session. So thank you so much, and let us get started.
Thank you so much, Adriana, for that intro. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Empower Youth and Transform Communities workshop. My name is Michelle Benavides, pronouns she, her, hers, and I am the campaign lead for the Vested Youth campaign. So our campaign is a youth-led, by youth, for youth campaign made up of youth, community members, and over 65 plus youth serving organizations across the city of Los Angeles. And our efforts is to create the first ever youth development department in the city of Los Angeles, because we have an animal department, but we don't have a youth development department. And that's crazy. A lot of people always say youth are the future, but if we're not investing in our youth, then LA ain't gonna have a bright future. And this is why we do the work that we do. With the power of grassroots organizing, our campaign has been picking up a lot of momentum at City Hall these past couple years. So we're excited to share some helpful tools and opportunities that you all could use to empower youth and lead your own organizing efforts at local and citywide levels. For today, we are here to build community with you all. So please make sure to make this space interactive. Don't be selfish with the emojis. Please use the reactions. Use the chat. Be active. And if you haven't already, please drop your name, pronouns, and the community you're coming from in the chat below. And then without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Cassandra.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us today. My name is Cassandra Castillo Tapia, pronouns she, hers, ella, and I am a youth organizer with the Invest in Youth campaign. I'm really excited to share space with you all. But as we begin to open up the space, we always want to begin by acknowledging that we are on stolen land and the painful history of genocide and forced occupation of this territory. I want us to acknowledge the traditional ancestral territory of the original inhabitants of this area, the Tongva, the Quiche, and the Chumash land, on which we learn, on which we are working, on which we organize today and every day. I would also, in that light, would like for us to honor the stolen lives that we lost in Atlanta, because these lives were not lost, they were stolen from us. So I would like for us to continue to say their names and remember and empower them. Soon Chung Park, Hyun Chung Grant, Suncha Kim, Young E Yu, Delana Young, Paul Andre Michaels, Xiao Che Tan, Dao Yo Feng. As a collective, we have to speak out and take action against racial discrimination, because what happened is not okay. It never was okay, and it will never be okay. I would like for us to continue to mobilize and take action against systems of white supremacy and continue to advocate and work together to push for social change.
Thank you so much, Cassandra, for organizing that. When we're organizing, we always want to make sure that we acknowledge those that came before us and make this a community environment. So for this reason, we want to uphold a few community agreements today. Our youth always like to make sure that we remind everybody to set community agreements, kind of just to set the tone of the space. And so we could all do this together. A few community agreements are on the screen. Please take some time to look over them. Real quick, if y'all haven't already, please turn on your cameras if you feel comfortable. We want this to be an interactive space. We're all here in community. It's all good if you're on your PJs, just please turn on your cameras. We also have a few other community agreements. So we have throw glitter, not shade. So an example of this is, let's say Cassandra likes mustard on her hot dog, right? And I think that's nasty. I'm not gonna be like, Cassandra, that's nasty. Why you like mustard? Like, ugh. So I'm not gonna do that, right? I'm like, okay, Cassandra, I might disagree with you on the mustard idea, but do you? And if you like mustard, go ahead, So that's throwing glitter, not shade. We also have another one of be water, not soda. So we're all folks with different perspectives, different backgrounds, and sometimes like it's okay to agree to disagree. So be like water, be calm and collective. Don't be like soda and erupt. And we have a few other community agreements on the screen. But if folks are down with these community agreements, could y'all please use the reactions or put your thumbs up so I could know I have the green light. Woo! All right, dope. We're good to go then. All right, Cassandra, go ahead and pass the mic over to you.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you everyone for joining us and agreeing to those community agreements. I know, it's still kind of like that morning that we're getting to 12 p.m. kind of environment, and we're here like, let's get that energy out there. So we want to get our blood pumping on, with a scavenger hunt icebreaker activity. And I know we just asked you all to turn on your cameras, but for this activity, we're going to ask folks to turn off your camera, and I'm going to read off 4 items that you would have 2 minutes to find out. Let me read through them first. The first person to get and find all the items and turn on their camera and say, done, and show us your 4 items, you're gonna win a special prize of a gift card. So let's read off the 4 items. We have, something social justice, a social justice swag, poster, t-shirt, pencil, anything that you have social justice related, a mug or reusable water bottle. Maybe you have your cafecito right there. Something yellow, it could be a dinosaur, a balloon, a sticky notepad, anything yellow. And let's kick it back to last March when we had the whole toilet paper frenzy. So let's find a toilet paper roll. And we have 2 minutes starting now. Turn off your cameras, and the first person to find all those 4 items. Let's see who's gonna be the fastest, y'all. See who can find all these items. Again, anything social justice related, or if anyone found it, has anyone found any of their items yet? I see Alex. Alex found them. Oh, wow. Oh, ooh, that is fast. Yo, Alex, you are fast. Do you want to go? You gotta go ahead and share what you found. You beat everyone to it.
I found my hydro flask. This gum that's yellow, and then a mug, and then a toilet paper roll. Does that count?
Yeah. Alex, you're fast. And I also saw I think it was Jasmine, right? That also unmuted at the same time. Do you want to go for it, Jasmine?
Yeah, so I have this gel on hand that's yellow, a toilet paper roll, my reusable cup, and then this is what a feminist looks like t-shirt, and I'm out of breath.
That's a beautiful t-shirt. That is amazing. Damn, y'all were fast. Like I didn't even finish the 2 minutes. Y'all were like, nah, I'm here to win. So make sure, Alex, Jasmine, to drop in your emails send them over to Michelle so we can send over a gift card for you all, because y'all are super quick on that. And thank you all so much to everyone else who participated. If you want to drop in the chat what you had for your social justice items. I know they beat you all to it. I'm so sorry, y'all, but that was like a game of being fast and reflexes. But with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Michelle.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. I was jotting down the emails right now. So awesome, everybody. Thank you so much for participating. I hope that everybody's energy is up now after that scavenger hunt. Now we are going to be transitioning over to our workshop. So if folks could please turn on their cameras, that would be really dope. So who are we and why are we here today on a Saturday morning? So as we mentioned earlier, we are the Investing Youth Coalition, and we have been around for quite some time now, 7 years to be exact. Our campaign goal is to create a fully funded, standalone, holistic, and inclusive youth development department in the city of Los Angeles that serves all of LA's youth, especially our Black and Brown youth living in underserved communities. Our campaign's efforts really originated in Boyle Heights back in 2014 when I was actually a senior in high school. So it's been a minute now. We started off in Boyle Heights. It was just a group of youth working together with about 5 organizations on the east side. And now fast forward to 2021, we are now a citywide youth-led campaign with the support of over 65 youth serving organizations. And honestly, it's just amazing to see how far we've gotten and to see how impactful it is to have our campaign finally at this point have a city motion introduced by 4 council members to fund the youth development department. So we're almost there. Yeah, we just need council members to vote yes on that motion. And we're really close to making history, but we want to be able to share some great tools with y'all that we use that work for us, and some insight for y'all to be able to incorporate it into your own working style. And disclaimer, we're not experts, but we do want to provide y'all with some tools to walk you through some steps on how to mobilize youth and how to support you as organizers to take action, develop strategy, build collective power. We want to empower you all to create meaningful and lasting policy changes. And there are plenty of examples of amazing coalition and campaigns that do this work. But for today, we'll be using our coalition and campaign as an example. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Cassandra so she could share a little bit more about our campaign background, our goals, our demands, and some quick first steps that each organizer should take when leading a campaign.
Thank you, Michelle. And just, to put it out there, this is very much like a space where you all can drop questions in the chat. We don't want it to be kind of like us speaking to you. We want it to be an environment where you all are able to be like, hey, I've heard of this strategy kind of thing. Can I give my 2 cents on it as well? But let's go ahead and get started. Why do we need a youth development department? How did we begin? And how should we begin to strategize and organize when there's something that we want to advocate for? So for us, we began, like Michelle said, back in 2014, when a bunch of young people like ourselves, we came together to see a common problem. And we're like, hey, the city of LA is only spending $75 to $78 per young person, which to us, that isn't enough. And that's per year. So basically City Hall, all of them, they're saying, you're worth less than a Disneyland ticket. You are worth less than Jordans, right? So there's not enough investment within our young people. And that is kind of where you begin strategizing, when you begin advocating for an issue. It's like, what is our problem? And our goal is kind of, okay, let's begin to do something about this. Let's begin to create a vision. And for us, it's creating a youth development department that has more funds, because as you're seeing right here, the city spends 131 million on police overtime, which when you're looking at it, you're like, hey, why are you spending so much on overtime itself? That's just overtime instead of any other work. So for us, it's okay, right off the bat, there's a problem. We have identified a goal, which is creating the youth development department. So now let's kind of like craft the strategy. How are we going to make sure that LA has a vision for youth development when it comes to investing in our young people? And how can we ensure that Los Angeles not only creates a department, but also that it serves the over 800,000 young people within the city of Los Angeles with decision-making power? How do we create an environment where our young people are not being criminalized, where our young people have workforce, where they have employment centers, where they're able to go and have all this? So when you're organizing, knowing that you have a goal, knowing that you are going to have this problem that you're going to tackle, as organizers, what we have to do is just come together and develop a strategy that will lead us to get to that goal. And that's kind of what you're seeing here within this timeline. It's an essential part of strategizing. So strategizing really is an essential part because it's helping us understand the steps that we're going to use to get closer to winning our demands. So 2014, here you have it. That's kind of when we came together and said, this is the problem. 2015, 2016, all the way to now, that's our strategy. That's kind of, okay, let's go outside of a city council member's office and say, this is how much you're investing on animal departments. This is how much you're spending on like a cannabis department instead of using funds to go into youth investment. And that's not to make less any of other issues, but it's like, hey, you have the capacity to create these problems. So within our strategy, crafting a campaign against the mayor in 2017, crafting policies in 2018 at the state capitol. The way we achieve this as campaigns, as organizers within any campaign essentially, is through creating strategy charts. Strategy charts, you'll see them within any organization. They are what allow us to organize all of these things that we want to achieve, all of these different steps and processes that we want to take into tangible, actionable steps. So yes, we want to create change, but what are we going to do? What can we do to make this change? So let me walk you all through to how a strategy chart works and how we can begin implementing this into anything we want to use. So first of all, what you want to list in your strategy chart is kind of create these columns to getting to your goal. So your goal, you know that this is what you're fighting for. We ourselves set it as an intermediate goal because our true vision is our long-term investment. That's kind of in the long term, we want to establish youth-led systems where Black and Brown youth who have been impacted by structural racism and economic injustice, that they have, a space for wholeness, for freedom, for fun. That is our vision. But in order to achieve that, we need to have a department that gives youth the resources. So right off the bat, we're listing, these are our goals, and this is what we can do to reach that goal. But before we do that, we also want to make sure, like, hey, having a department, that takes smaller steps, that takes smaller goals. So you always want to list short-term goals. What are things that you can do right now? What are things and tangible steps that you can take at the moment to make sure that you're reaching that goal? For us, it's like Michelle said, the motion. Having a motion introduced into City Hall is something that we're really proud of because yes, our young people did that, but now let's make sure that anything that we're crafting is getting a majority vote, because council members here are the ones who have the power to make sure that it's not just written in policy, but that something is done about it. So that's kind of what you want to structure whenever you're crafting, your policy, whatever you're crafting, whatever change you're doing. You want to set those goals and then take and break down, okay, what can we do to achieve that goal? So you're going to look at organizational considerations, and that's, what resources can we put in right now? What young people can we begin to bring in into our spaces? Do we have website graphics? Are we able to mobilize through social media? How many people do we have? How many organizations? And then how are we going to build that campaign? Having these resources, what are we going to do so that we get more people engaged within what we're doing? How are we going to ensure that it's not just a small base of people, but that we have more than just 2 people advocating for this within City Hall? Because if it's just 2 people, policymakers are not going to listen to you. They're going to say, oh, it's just 2 people out of all of those here in Los Angeles. I'm not going to care too much about that because I know I can easily, defeat whatever motion they're trying to pass. And you also want to look at internal problems. You want to list those because sometimes we don't think about those problems. We're like, oh, okay, well, we don't think about too much about communication within ourselves. We want to be listing these internal problems because we want to be like, okay, maybe we're not too strong in communication. What can we do about it? So if anything were to ever happen, we know we can count on each other within communication, right? And then within the strategy chart itself, I know it's like a lot to consider, but you also want to consider your constituency people power. So constituency, that is literally the folks who are being affected by your issue. You want to list down anyone who cares about whatever issue you're talking about, whatever allies you have, who would be down for the cause. So say if I am going to, give public comment, who's going to come and have my back and give public comment with me? For us, we listed that as, teachers unions, as Black Lives Matter, as the People's Budget LA, as, the YMCAs who have young people in these spaces and who want to see a change, a systematic change in the structures of how we're investing in our young people. So we know these people have our back and we know that we can work together to achieve all these processes. And, the same way that we have these people who are supporting us, you want to list down people who are your opponents, because you're always going to have haters who are going to say, whatever you're doing, I can do better. Or they're going to say, no, what you're doing just does not work. So you want to list your opponents because you want to be aware that these people are going to be pushing back to whatever you're putting forth. You may take 1 step forward, they're going to try to take you 2 steps back, but you want to be assured and aware that, hey, I already know that these people are going to present opponents. And then you have the unsure where you're just like, oh, I don't know this person. I don't necessarily have ever, engaged with them. I'm not sure where they would be. So I'm going to keep them there, hold them off to the side, and then kind of craft policy or craft issues and see how can I get those people who I don't know into my spaces. And here I know you're seeing, decision makers and tactics, and it's pretty empty, but that's because we ourselves, to do this and to organize, to figure out how to win that change, what we do is an additional map. And I know it's like a lot to be mapping stuff out, but truly it helps you when you're organizing, is asset maps and supporters. So these asset maps and strategy are found within the strategy chart. But these maps are truly a simple way of being like, okay, who are people who would care about this? Who are the people who have decision-making power? And I want to open it up to you all. Why would an asset map and power map be beneficial when you're organizing? And anyone can unmute or drop it in the chat. Let's see, I see a chat. To know who to ask for help, to tailor the questions. Exactly, yeah. Anyone else want to drop in or chime in about why we would need to asset map our key decision makers? How would this help us in organizing? Let's see, I see another chat. Directing our energy to people that are worth it, so you know who you can access quickly versus long term. Yeah, exactly. These are all important assets and important things that we have to be considering as organizers. It is looking at these folks, and a few of the key resources there here as well listed. The asset map is really the place to see, okay, these are the folks who are more likely to say yes to whatever policy I'm crafting, whatever work I'm doing. These are the folks who will be like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, meh, kind of, I don't know where you're feeling, I don't know where you're sitting. And these people are like, outright no, whatever you're doing, I hate it, right? So the key players in our campaign, those are the folks who we want to have within our spaces. They are the decision makers who have power to create change within whatever institution you're trying to do. And that's why it's important to note that this target that you want to include in these assets, they aren't necessarily the institutions, but rather the people who have the power to change the institutions. They are these folks who will more likely agree to our demands or disagree because of how they're going to look like, when it comes to the next election or when it comes to policies that they're trying to craft themselves. So once you kind of, list your key players and what they care about, what issues they're about, any background information that might be helpful for you. From there, that's where you can begin to put them on a support scale. So if I know Councilmember Monica Rodriguez is all about reimagining public safety, and I want to reimagine public safety, I know that that's a council member that I can count on. They are an asset player that will support my demand. But maybe, Paul Krikorian, he's not very much in tune into this work. He doesn't really know what's going on. So I want to make sure that I can inform him to kind of move him onto the supportive side, because this map, when you're mapping folks out into your strategy, it's not stagnant. I want you all to kind of, realize that however this is happening, our goals are, demands and issues, it's to shift these key players towards supporting our demands. We want these meh people to be strong yeses. We want these no folks to become mess and eventually support us, because we want them to be like, okay, well, now that we have so many people coming together, now that I've seen what you are about, let me support you all. And what you see here is that we as activists, we have the ability to challenge these power imbalances when it comes to organizing, when it comes to strategizing. But, we can strategize as much as we want, but if we don't have the people power there as well, that's something else that we have to take into consideration. So I'll pass it over to Michelle, who's going to guide us through coalition building and that amount of building our base within the people.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. And just something super important to point out is that your goal for your campaign never changes. It stays the same, but your strategy changes when your politics changes. So that's super important to note, because sometimes my youth will get, even myself will get very frustrated. Like, I just planned the whole strategy and now they shifted the politics. So that means that you got to shift too, to make sure that you're reaching your ultimate goal. And just how Cassandra mentioned, yes, we have a lot of people power, and it's super key within our campaign. And you can see throughout our campaign that young people are the ones leading this movement for change. But even then, we don't do this alone, right? We can't take all of the credit. So the more supporters you could attract to your campaign, the more collective power you can build in order to apply pressure onto your targets. And in our case, our targets is LA City Council and the mayor. And building collective power is super crucial to your campaign, because individuals can create more power when we all work together. And one way to be very helpful is that when we're thinking about like breaking down the process of like who is your base could be broken down into leaders, your members, and your supporters. And like once you know like where your base stands and who is your base, it's very important to also identify opportunities for your base to be inserted into your campaign and get involved, because you could get a lot of folks to like join your campaign, but if you don't provide the tools or the opportunities for them to take on a bigger leadership role, then your campaign won't grow as much. So it's super crucial to have folks supporting your actions, and it's super important to also have them create a strong base, because the more power that you have as a coalition, the more pressure you will put onto council members, and y'all can scare these politicians. Because if you have, let's say, a group of like just 5 youth, like yeah, you can make some noise, but if you have like 200 youth like filling the halls of City Hall, they're gonna be like, oh damn, this is not a campaign I want to mess with. Like, let me hear what their demands are so I could support them. If not, they're gonna cancel me, and then they're gonna kick me out of my seat as city council member. And that's what happened for CD4. So it's really important to let y'all know like y'all are super powerful and y'all can make this happen. And Cassandra, if you could go on to the next slide, please. So, okay, y'all have your base, y'all have your members, and y'all are trying to get them organized. So we always like to make sure that our youth and our coalition members have the tools they need to be able to get new folks to join the campaign. So over here in the Vesting Youth campaign, we have a coalition building toolkit. So this toolkit, it basically has like a run through of a step-by-step of how to be able to get new youth or new organizations to join our coalition. So we have table contents, and in the table contents we have like step-by-step of how to get a new youth on board, or how to get organization on board. We have like a database of organizations that we want to reach out to, that they could reach out to as well. And sometimes it could be a little scary, like reaching out to a youth, like trying to get them to join. So I might just be like, hey, just tell them to join. They're like, yeah, but like what I say, right? So we have a couple scripts on how to be able to connect with somebody. So we have a script on how to connect somebody via email, how to connect somebody via social media, and how to connect somebody via phone. So there's different ways to be able to connect with folks to try to get them to join your campaign. And then we also have tools on like, okay, once you get them on board, what are the next steps, right? How do you get them involved in the campaign? What are opportunities for them to take action? And we also have our last part, which is how to make sure that once you're in the campaign, how do you maintain constant communication? How do you make sure that their voice is being heard, and that we don't forget to always have youth leading these efforts? And now if you could transition over to the mural, Cassandra, please. So now we want to create some opportunity to have y'all brainstorm. So I dropped the link in the chat. So please click the link and it will lead you onto this mural. So the previous group got to drop a few ideas of what they think are some strategies that we could use to organize our base to show collective power. So I want y'all to take a minute or two to please start jotting down what your ideas are. So all you have to do is you just click one of the post-its and you're able to write your comment. And if you have any issues with it, please, you can also drop it in the chat and we'll be reading that off. So some examples just to get y'all to start thinking is creating infographics to support an action. We have somebody that wrote creating strong social media presence. And it is a little hard to read, Cassandra. So as folks are jotting things down, if you could go ahead and read a few for me, please.
For sure. So we're seeing interactive projects that energize people, diverse spaces, interactive presentations, which are really key when you're trying to engage. Sometimes you have young people who are, in middle school, high school, who, want to be part of the change, but they're like, hey, can I have some activities to be able to learn how to do this? So you want to have interactive presentations, or some folks, you want to have those spaces as well, conducting mass call texts and drives, when you mobilize people via calling and texting, this is done a lot when you're, advocating within voting during election seasons. You see people calling and be like, hey, have you heard about, this campaign? Have you heard about this ballot initiative that's on your ballot? Will you vote yes or no? And you're kind of informing the people around you and telling them, hey, this is an issue that's happening. Can we count on your support? We have organizing collectively, building relationships with schools. Building relationships with schools is key, because right there you have a large base of young people who you're like, okay, these people definitely care about education. They care about our young people. So let's start organizing and mobilizing those schools, uplifting voices, creating networks, organizing collective transports for non-driving participants. That's definitely something that we do a lot as well. Sometimes we'll have a rally, but we're here like, okay, our students get out of school at 3 p.m. or, we have young people who can't drive, who just are not at the age where their parents can drive them. So it's like, okay, we want to build these people, we want to have this power. So let's make sure that, one of our adult allies or college students who can drive, can you go pick up the students so we can make sure that we have all these folks here as well. I'm seeing finding a strong community of leaders and role models to inspire each other. Definitely, because when it comes to organizing, we want to build each other up. We want to uplift each other's stories. We want to make sure that, hey, yes, I have all these tools in my toolbox of organizing, but how am I going to make sure that the next person next to me is able to do that as well? We want to be able to empower each other and to really uplift all these stories, uplift all these voices. And I'm seeing really great things. So y'all already killing it.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. And we just want to let folks know that this is a living document. So we'll be having to share the link again so y'all could have that. So if y'all ever want to go back and look at what y'all wrote, the link is there for y'all to take a look at. And then now, Cassandra, if you could transition over back to the Canva. Thank you so much. So thank y'all for organizing and for doing all that. So a couple of the collective power tactics that are also good to know. Some of y'all mentioned social media. Some of y'all mentioned rallies. Another great tactic to use is press events. For press events, usually the media is very present on Tuesdays around 10 a.m. So if y'all ever want like LA Times and folks to come, usually the times that are known for them to pull up is around 10 a.m. But sometimes that could be hard, because youth are in school. So that's when we get to do our own news outlets and use social media as a way to get our news outlets out. We also have a section here for letters. So whenever like you're trying to do something, it's always important that you write a letter in behalf of your campaign or your coalition to send it to those politicians, so they could have a physical document saying the list of your clear demands that you want them to do. So it's one thing to post on social media, but it's also even more impactful if you have these letters being sent out to the council offices and attaching it to the city clerk website. And the city clerk website is usually where all the motions could be found. And if you go to the next one, please, Cassandra. Thank you. So these are just some opportunities that we do too in the campaign. So we wrote a letter about 2 weeks ago to full city council. So about 2 weeks ago, that's when we got our motion to create a youth development department introduced by 4 council members. So Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez, Councilmember Bonin, Nithya Raman, and we had another council member named Kevin De Leon who helped us as well. So they made their own press releases, but as a campaign, we wanted to make sure that we wrote our own letter. So we typed up a letter. It has our list of clear demands, and it will be cool, if we just have maybe one youth signature and maybe one organization sign on. But if you have over like 60 plus organizations, council members are gonna be like, oh damn, this is not a campaign I want to mess with, and they have a lot of presence in my district, so let me see what they are talking about so I can support them, or else they're gonna be kicking me out of office. And it's something else that we did was that we emailed the letter to the council members and their chief of staff, which are the folks that are the ones that do a lot of the policy work for the council members. And we had all our coalition members and youth send those letters too. So imagine you're working at City Hall, you show up to your office and you have like 200 inboxes, and it's just all of these letters. That's gonna make you wanna pay attention to it. We also do press conferences after like an important action that we do or a milestone, just to make sure that we get some media outlets out there. We have some rallies, and now that we're in COVID, always make sure that you provide those COVID safety protocols before having those rallies. But rallies are a great way to show your presence. And on the right hand side, we have social media advocacy. So this is something that has been super important in our campaign these past couple months. So we use our social media outlets as a way to be able to, spread news out there and ask folks to support us in actions. On the top right, we have an infographic that Cassandra created. And on the top, it has like 4 bullet points of what our demands are, and in the caption it has like what's happening, right, and why do we need the public to support us and do some action. So at the bottom it says to please submit public comment on the link on our bio. So when you swipe right on our infographic, it tells you step by step how to give public comment, because folks get excited and they want to support and join the movement, but sometimes they might not know how. So it's good to have an infographic that tells you like step by step how to write a public comment, where to go to give a public comment. And we always like to create a sample for folks to have of what are possible, sentences they could write in a public comment. And you can't really see it, but at the very bottom, we have a screenshot that we took from Councilmember Cedillo's office. So on his Instagram, we had all of our folks go on and like bombard all the council members and tagging them on Instagram. So that's actually how we got council members to notice us. So if you go to his tag photos, like most of the posts are like from Investing Youth Coalition. So it was like crazy. It was like the day before we were trying to get on the agenda. And we were like blowing up all the council members, and we went on Instagram live. And like, I kid you not, we had like 3 council members join our lives because they wanted to know why they were being canceled. And that's actually how we got their attention. So council member Cedillo, we just had a meeting with him this Thursday, and now he's fully on board and supports us. But it all started with doing social media advocacy. So it works, y'all. And then if you could go to the next one, Cassandra, and
Yeah.
that's up to you.
Yeah, so exactly as Michelle's saying, social media, especially right now, we're in COVID, we're in a pandemic where we can't really meet with people and we can't really have these rallies. So social media is the way to go when you want to activate folks, when you want to let them know that this is a problem in your community, because not a lot of folks will know if you're not involved in these type of work. So you may have someone who's just like, I'm really passionate about education, but if they don't know that this is something that's happening, then how are they going to be your supporter? How are they going to mobilize? So we all have the power right now to show our people power and to multiply that influence with the influence of others and kind of shift those relationships and really show these council members that, hey, the more that I'm a post, the more I'm creating this pressure on you, and the more your image is kind of gonna get hurt and we can kick you out of office. Just like we were saying, social media has that power where you can, expose council members, be like, hey, they're not investing in young people. Let's just not elect them in 2022 when we have our next elections. So you have all of this power that you're creating within social media, but you also want to use art. And I want to ask you, why would art be useful in a campaign? How could art help us and, really get our voices out there? And then again, anyone can just shout it out. Why is art important? Drop it in the chat.
I think art's really important in like coalition building because it's like it's not dependent on a language. Like everyone can understand it, and so it's really universal to like get the word out.
Definitely, Brian. And it's this space where someone can look at it and be like, hey, that is something that I care about, and it's easy to understand, and anyone can make art. Very true. It doesn't matter what style of art you have. It doesn't matter, if there's a certain vibe that you're going for. Depending on everything that you're doing, you can create art with different styles, with different languages. And someone said art is visceral. Yes, definitely. And that's kind of how we use art within our campaign as well. We ensure that not only are we putting pressure through social media, but also that we're sharing people's stories, because art is really a way for us to share and reclaim our stories and share folks who perhaps have been excluded from conversations for far too long. For ourselves, our motto and kind of like the way we approach art is creating these installations, creating these artworks where we're reclaiming street culture and our youth voices. Graffiti for far too long has been criminalized, and very different art forms have also been criminalized and been, said that, hey, this isn't a type of art form that you should continue to do. But with this graffiti art, we're reclaiming that. We're saying art is powerful. Art can be used, with these adjectives to show our people power and show everything that we've been doing. And it's also a way for us, to voice the opinions and to uplift the voices of those who have been silenced for long. You can go on and create an artwork, an art piece, sit down and have a chat with someone who maybe did not have opportunities within your community, or maybe you just want to create a piece that speaks to why you are part of this, which is why art is so key into everything that we're doing. And it's also a way of healing within the movement itself. You can create art to express all those emotions, to let go of that pain that you're feeling, and to express all of that. But super key. But with that, we've learned so much about the different work that we're kind of doing. We've learned a few tips that we can use when it comes to organizing, and you all already know a lot of these works, a lot of these efforts that you can use. So we kind of want to put it into practice, right? So I'm gonna give you all a little quick scenario, and then you all please participate. So let's say the pandemic is over. We're all back on campus, whatever campus you're gonna be going to, maybe back at LMU, but after several incidents of violence, drug use on campus, our lovely Ms. Benavides, our dean, they decided that they want to make big changes to LMU's code of conduct, right? So every student now has to bring clear backpacks and purses to school, nothing that can prevent us as, dean from seeing what's happening. So anyone who is caught without the clear backpack will be removed from campus immediately and stripped away from their scholarships. They will be investigated and they will be educated and reviewed under the interim Title 20 policy to proceed with legal action. So do we agree or we disagree with this policy? How are y'all feeling about this new policy that Dean Benavides is introducing? And y'all can unmute for this as well. What are some emotions coming up with reading this? Maria says they would disagree. Anyone else? Do you all agree with this? I'm hearing a lot of silence. Maybe y'all agree.
I disagree with it because I think it's one of the policies that don't really actually address the issue at hand and just make like surface level statements, and yeah, it just doesn't bring any actual change.
Exactly. Anyone else want to chime in? We're seeing that it's very Band-Aid solution style. Anyone else want to chime in why you disagree, or maybe you agree with it?
This also seems to be a violation of privacy, since we're not in K through 12 education. We have a legal right to like our own stuff unless you're distributing drugs out of your backpack. Also, bitches are resourceful as fuck, excuse my language. So if you have a drug problem, the amount of people I know, like, put it in your water bottle, mix it in your drink. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. This is like, if this was a natural solution, I would laugh. I'd be like, oh, you guys, you don't understand.
Yeah, completely agree. And be completely honest with us. Like, why would you agree? What would you do? Let's start to think about it. This is a problem, right? So we're seeing that they're trying to limit youth's free speech, trying to limit what they're bringing into school. We're adults. Some of us are adults, right? We can make decisions on what we want to do. And yeah, it's barely a Band-Aid solution at some point, but what are some strategies that we can use? Dean Benavides is here with us. Like, what are we going to do to convince Dean Benavides?
I just want to keep y'all safe, man. That's why we need clear backpacks. And if y'all don't have no ideas, I guess we gonna keep this.
So are we gonna challenge Dean Benavides? What are some things we can do to challenge that?
So like a better way is actually having a conversation to the individuals that were like being like attacked of or being said to like deem being having violent behavior and are deemed to like have drugs on campus, because right, like what is the definition of violence? Who's deciding what is violent behavior, right? Because if we look at the history of violence, like it tends to be like POC that gets told that, oh, you have violent behavior, when if we have other people doing the exact same behavior, it's not deemed to be violent. It's like having a conversation of like, who are you saying is being violent? Why are they acting with air quotes violent? So addressing, as someone else said, like the root of the problem and figuring out why are people using drugs. So it's like, right, there's two separate issues that are being addressed here, and actually splitting that into two separate problems.
Definitely. And you also see here, the dean is bringing in Title 20 policy. Maybe that policy doesn't even have anything to do with drug use. Maybe it doesn't even have to do with students. It's just a policy that they said, oh, students are going to read Title 20 policy and be scared, that they're going to want to follow this policy. But let's start brainstorming. How can we make sure that we're bringing in more young people? Because yeah, we're 15 folks here. That is important. We have 15 folks, but Dean Benavides is not going to care about 15 students. How can we make sure that we're bringing more folks into this and being aware that this is a policy that they want to include? And again, feel free to shout them out. Like there's no right or wrong answer. Organizing is all about learning and doing all of this work.
I guess I go to different like student organizations who have, well, I guess all student organizations would have like stake in this sort of situation, but trying to get the word out there to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible in order to organize.
Definitely want to be building that people power. People power, very important. Anyone else want to chime in? Or Dean Benavides, you have something to
If
say?
it's happening on a campus, if there's a central location, like for us, like Sunken Gardens or half of Palm Walk, I'd put up like a big art piece or something that also has information on it, or like a number or a hashtag or something, because that's honestly half the reason I've done like half the stuff in college that I've done, because I saw it on a flyer on Palm Walk, or there was like a mural or an art piece or a demonstration thing up that I saw that necessarily wasn't like a piece of paper that I had to read or a flyer or something like that. That's can get like quick attention and easy engagement to lead you to go to a deeper conversation to gather people.
Exactly. It's about, starting that conversation, because one person seeing your artwork, one person seeing it is going to be like, oh, okay, well, let me tell my friends because I don't want to go to that meeting alone. Or that's something that I want to be involved with. Dean Benavides, any words for our lovely students here who are advocating against you?
I don't know, man. I heard y'all were trying to organize. Y'all are going to put some art up, but I don't have nothing on my desk that says that y'all disagree. I think we're missing something.
Another like more radical approach, right? That like we could potentially do, or we can say it's like, oh, like we're gonna, because where are these like clear backpacks gonna come from? Is like the school gonna provide them? If so, like we can clearly, like if students, like we actually got organized, stop like that shipment come from coming. Like if the shipment comes, like throwing all of that away, like ruining the clear backpacks. That's a lot more like of a radical approach, and like actually having students like all show up with non-clear backpacks, because like we as students are like, right, an institution's a business, so if they get rid of all their students, the institution's no longer gonna work with us. Like an institution would shut down without its students, so if we all show up without clear backpacks, they're not gonna get rid of all of us.
100% agree with that. They can't shut us down all, right? And to Michelle's point, there's nothing written in paper, right? We're gonna show up without our backpacks, and then everyone, let's bring a letter to drop off at Michelle's desk, right? let's all bring forth a policy that says, this is, if you want to address this issue, we suggest you do this instead of the policy that you're introducing. That way, you know, Michelle, maybe, you know, the dean might not read all of them, but they're seeing that there's a huge stack of papers on their desk and they're like, okay, you know what, let me rethink that. Cause yeah, it's gonna cause the school admissions to go down if they're seeing that I'm, you know, giving these policies. We're definitely gonna see that shift. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, introducing these tools, introducing all of these aspects into every part of organizing that we're doing, because, you know, as organizers, we have the power to mobilize our folks. We have the power to continue leading change in whatever form it is, even if it's a small policy or seemingly small policy that is being introduced. Michelle?
I don't know, man. These ideas sound good, but I think I could get away with it because there's no media that's highlighting this issue. I think y'all need to do something else too.
Brian is dropping some really important things in the chat. All LMU resolutions are delivered to the Dean of Students and other stakeholders and admins. So you have stakeholders there that you can be like, okay, well, let's go against the Dean. You know, if all your professors are saying no, not only are they losing professors and students, but they're like, my school's gonna look bad and I can lose my position, probably not get a job anywhere else. Reaching out to local news reporters, definitely, because news reporters, they're going to want the tea. They're going to be like, okay, well, why are these students not going to school? Let me make sure to highlight that. Social media campaigns, Loyolan, agency, yes. So I don't know, Dean Benavides, you scared now? They're going to go at you.
Yeah, I think I'm a little scared. They're organizing. They got the media out here. My office is bombarded with LA Times and a whole bunch of news outlets. I don't want to lose my job. I want to be, you know, I'm going to be held accountable and I'm going to listen to what the youth have to say. So thank y'all for holding me accountable, and I'm going to, you know, throw this motion out the door. Woo! And I just checked the time. I know we're running low on time, so we could start wrapping it up. But great activity, y'all. Y'all are now bomb as organizers. Y'all got that organizer mentality. We are getting close to an end, but we just want to quickly thank all of you for allowing us to be in this space with you all and share some tools that are helpful to us. Again, please follow us on the gram, show some love. We want to stay connected with you all. Y'all are now part of the Legacy LA and Invest in Youth family. So that also means that if you're part of the family, you got to put in some work, right? So that means that y'all got to support us in our actions. Please follow us on the gram. We have ways that y'all could be able to still stay connected. Write a public comment to support our motion. And before I do pass it over to Cassandra, we want to say that organizer burnout is a real thing. So we want to remind you all that you're going to be doing awesome work, and sometimes it's going to feel like it's just bombarding you like back to back, but please take care of yourself, put yourself first, take care of your mental health, because we need y'all in the long run. And I'll go ahead and pass it over to Cassandra.
Yeah, thank you everyone for participating. I know organizing is, you know, a struggle sometimes, but you know, we're all here. We all have great ideas. We all know what to be, you know, what to do. And we'll make sure to send you all, you know, these coalition building toolkits. You know, maybe you want to adapt it into your own campaign. Maybe you want to see one of our social media toolkits and be like, hey, this is something I can incorporate into my own efforts. So we'll be sure to include that, because organizing isn't about hoarding information. It's about sharing the love, sharing all this information. So let's continue to build that power. Let's continue to, you know, use our collective passion, use that energy to fight for transformative change, to build in our community, because when we're empowering ourselves, when we're empowering each other, we're really leading that transformation in our communities. So thank you all so much for joining us today. I really love sharing space with you all. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming to this workshop. We do have a 15-minute break again before the keynote speaker. We will have Father Greg and Jose, a homie from Homeboy Industries, who is a sponsor and a partner with Invest in Youth Coalition. So another great organization from the Boyle Heights area. So get a break, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, a snack. Make sure that you checked your email if you RSVP'd to get a food voucher. And if you want to connect with Michelle or Cassandra or just the campaign in general, drop your emails in the chat. We have a lot of work to do, and as LMU students who live in the 11th district under Mike Bonin, who is on board with the youth development, I definitely suggest jumping onto the campaign. So thank you, Michelle and Cassandra, for joining us and having this for LMU students.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Cassandra and Michelle. Thank you so much. You are honestly also welcome if y'all want to see the keynote. I'm sure y'all have heard from Father Greg and Homeboy Industries for a while. But I also know that Brian, who is also still here, there's some emails on the chat of students that I do think are definitely on board. Do y'all have the link for the Teach-In website and stuff, or should I like drop it in case y'all want to go to the keynote speaker? Because that's where like the Zoom link.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have the link. Thank you, Adriana. And I'll share it with Sandra.
Oh yeah, and there's Brian's email, because I do know he wants to get like LA like student governments on board with him. Fun fact, he's on mute right now. I mean, they're on mute right now, but they're running for vice president.
Yeah.
I'm running for president with I'm first gen college student, so I'm running for president of our student body, and I'm currently on the executive board of like our student body, and so we just created this coalition, this association of all this like key like large universities in the Los Angeles area.